it's that time where we do our "Where Are They Now" segment. And as a former Eagle tight end and a player, it's pretty cool to get to go back and talk to some of the people that you played with or associated with.
Well, this guy, for obvious reasons, as we'll find out, is one of my all-time favorites, and I'm looking forward to reconnecting with him today.
All right, so without any further ado, let's go to the Barb's Harley-Davidson Sports Hotline and welcome into the locker room. Longtime general manager of the Kansas City Chiefs, but before that, he's with the Philadelphia Stars, and before that, he started with Dick Vermeil and the Eagles. Let's welcome into the locker room Carl Peterson. What's up, Carl?
Hey, Billy. How are you? And Ken, good to hear your voice again.
I'll tell you what, we're having a lot of fun. We're broadcasting live on the boardwalk in Ocean City, New Jersey, Carl.
Well, a place close to my heart, that's for sure.
Carl, and I want to start off with this first question because you come in 1977 with Dick Vermeil from the West Coast. What did you make it? What was it like for somebody from the West Coast to come east to a place like Philadelphia and the Jersey Shore?
It was a bit of a culture shock. Having grown up in Long Beach, California, and surfed my brains out and sailed and loved the water, and when I got there, everybody raved about the Jersey Shore, and I went out there and I said, "There's no surf here."
Well, let me correct you, Carl. The last couple months, the waves have been really big here. We've had a couple of great storms, and the surfers have been going nuts here.
Not quite like Malibu.
No, not like Malibu, but hey.
So what do you mean? You're talking about 2 or 3 feet?
It's all relative.
Carl, you've had a lot of success in evaluating talent. In Philadelphia right now, it seems we're starved for good general managing. How hard, is it something that's innate, or I mean, do you rely on the people that surround you, or are you just lucky?
Well, I used everybody, including, which was at that time sort of knew the coaches also, because I came into this business as a coach. In my first year with Vermeil from UCLA, I coached the tight ends. I coached Keith Kreppley and Ken Dunnick and some other guys. But at the end of the day, I always wanted to see the player myself. I wanted to see him in practice. I wanted to see him in games, live. And then you look at a great deal of, at that time, film, now video. But it's not that difficult to recognize, certainly, and measure height, weight, and speed, agility, etc., balance. But the one thing that's so difficult to measure is the size of a guy's heart. And you never know how he's going to react when he gets to the National Football League. Some of them blossom, and some of them close up like a clam. And you don't want to make those mistakes, that's for sure.
Hey, Carl, it's Ken, and I really appreciate you jumping on. And
my pleasure.
If it wasn't for you, I would not have had a pro football career. You were the guy that found me at Memphis State. I was a free agent basketball player. I only played a couple years of football, and you brought me in as a free agent, and I was lucky enough to stick that Super Bowl year, and then we caught up again with each other with the Philadelphia Stars. And I just want to talk a little bit about the Stars because I know it's a team that remains near and dear to our heart. As a matter of fact, we had a Stars reunion a couple of years ago, and Carl's horse won the Belmont, and he came to the Stars reunion instead of going to the Belmont, which tells you all you need to know about Carl Peterson. But, Carl, talk a little bit about the formation of that team and working for Miles Tannenbaum and the fact that we both agree that the Stars would have been competitive in the NFL.
Well, I think, number one, obviously hiring a heck of a coaching staff, and it was late in the year to hire a staff, but I talked Jim Mora, my fellow coaching mate from UCLA, who was the defensive coordinator at New England at the time, into coming in, and he put together a great staff. We had four assistant coaches off that staff become NFL head coaches, and a number of them coordinators and so forth later after the Stars time. But then it was acquiring good personnel, including yourself. Obviously, I liked experienced guys. Chuck Ucina had experience in San Francisco, and frankly, Bill Walsh called me when they were letting him go and said, "Carl, you need to sign this guy." And I had Sam Ritigliano call me and said, "Carl, you need to sign this guy by the name of Sam Mills." the only thing wrong is he's not very tall, but he's a great football player, and how right Sam was. But I think with the contacts that I had in the NFL, and I was in the NFL for 7 years before the USFL, plus the knowledge of coaching and personnel evaluation, really gave me probably a leg up on the other GM presidents of the other teams. And we put together a heck of a staff, a heck of a group of players, and they all wanted to win, and they wanted to make their careers continue, like yourself, in the great game of football. There's only so many slots in the NFL, as we all know, and I think without any question, I would agree with you, Ken. I think we could have been competitive. We would have been competitive. I'll tell you what, we would have been competitive with the Philadelphia Eagles at that time.
No question. I tell Jaworski that all the time, by the way. Hey, Carl, speaking of the Stars, Terry Bradway just jogged by, and no lie. So
he was needling.
So he's here every weekend. See, Terry, you and Terry you kind of make me mad a little bit, because every time I see you, you look the same, okay? And I've gotten 40 years older, but, let's talk a little bit about, they talk about coaching trees, and you were responsible for so many guys' careers. I mean, Terry Bradway is a good example. You hired him as a scout. He becomes the general manager of the New York Jets. You hired Bruce Arians at Kansas City, and look at what Bruce Arians is doing now. Dom Capers, you hired him with the Stars. He became a head coach. Vince Tobin, Billy Kuharich, who was a GM of the Saints. I mean, Carl hired him. Herm Edwards, he hired Herm Edwards. I mean, so as you look back in your career, you got to be kind of proud that you were able to give these guys a start, and look at the success that they've had.
Well, I guess you found the key there. The key is you hire people that are smarter than you are, because they'll make you look smarter than you are. And we had a heck of a lot of good people. I always felt that you should push somebody as hard and as fast as they wanted to climb. And I did not like people that were happy in their place, and that I like them to be motivated, self-motivated to become the best personnel person, the best player, the best coach, or whatever. And we had a lot of those people, and you're right. I'm very proud of. We still have one or two Stars coaches coaching in the National Football League. And Carl Smith, I think, is still up at Seattle.
Right.
But at the end of the day, it still comes down to players, and you've got to get the right players. They have to be, I think, number one, self-motivated, but also willing to take the I out of their name and make it we, and understand that in the game of football, more than any other team sport, you depend on each other, and you got to trust each other and your coaches. And once you've gained that, then you got a great chance for success. And we had so many of those people, including Ken Dunnick. And, I also had another basketball tight end that I drafted and coached on the sideline so well. The guy by the name of Tony Gonzalez. He just happened to end up in the Pro Football Hall of Fame.
I'm glad to be in the same paragraph with Tony Gonzalez. Thanks a lot.
Yeah, Coach, there's no I in team, that's for sure. We're talking with Carl Peterson, longtime general manager of the Kansas City Chiefs with the USFL, Philadelphia Stars, and, of course, you started your coaching career with the Eagles.
Hey, Carl, it's Greg Malakovic here. I got a question for you. If you're in the tight end room today, currently, with our star tight end, Zach Ertz, what is your motivational speech to him to get him going this week?
Well, they're making so much money these days, it's hard to talk to those guys on the same level. But, again, you got to find that key. And I would tell you with Tony Gonzalez, from the first day he came in, he was self-motivated. He was raised by his mother and his grandmother, and out of Huntington Beach, California. He had feet so big, I told him he didn't need a surfboard. He can just surf with his bare feet. But he really, I would see him on the planes, the charters back and forth to games and so forth. While the other guys are reading Playboy and the rest, he's reading a self-motivation book. I mean, he started that from the beginning, and a very bright guy, very self-motivated, but also that he cared about the team and his teammates, and I think that's essential. once you have that bond with these guys, then frankly they take over the team. They're their own leaders, and the coaches don't have to do a lot of motivation. Just put them in a position where they can be successful and we can win. And I think that's the key more than anything else.
And I guess, Coach, the athletes have kind of changed, so the evaluating process, it's not just on the field, it's off the field, and what type of person they are, too.
Yeah.
Without question, you go into a lot of depth on who this player is and where he's from, his friends are, how does he do in school. It's absolutely essential because, again, with the dollars that you're paying these guys now, you can't afford to make a mistake. But again, specific to their playing abilities, I always went back to the film or the video. And, probably one of the best picks I always felt that I had was a sixth round pick by the name of Wilbur Montgomery from little Abilene Christian College. And he wasn't very tall, he wasn't very big, but he scored 69 touchdowns in his time in Abilene Christian. And I told Dick, I said, I don't care where he's playing, anybody that scores that many touchdowns late in the sixth round, we're going to take him. And, Lord, he helped us like Ron Jaworski and so many others go to Super Bowl 15 and became a coach, a longtime coach in the NFL and an excellent one. So you look for those type of guys, in any round, every round, or even in the free agency, in college free agency. Herman Edwards was one of the best college free agents I ever signed. And, these guys, Priest Holmes was outstanding too. Never drafted. Everybody gave up on them during the draft, but they can still play and just need the opportunity.
Yeah, Carl was responsible for bringing Joe Montana to Kansas City, and just so much of football history. Coach, we only have a little bit of time left. Talk a little bit about your relationship with Dick Vermeil and how you've maintained that. And you've got a great wine. But I just got my Vermeil wine shipment, by the way, and the problem with it is it's so good I drink it too fast. But talk a little bit about that briefly, if you can.
Well, I appreciate the plug for Vermeil wine. We go back to, obviously, 1974 when Dick came into UCLA. I was already there under Pepper Rogers, and Pepper left us, our coaching staff. And Dick came in, and he retained 7 of the 9 assistant coaches, including myself, which I was very happy about because that was my alma mater, and I felt that I was at the place I wanted to be. But it began with that. He's a very perceptive guy. On the interview, he told me, he said, I know a lot about you. I don't know how he found the time to look at everybody that he was interviewing. Plus, he was coaching the LA Rams at the time in the playoffs in the NFL. And he said, I know you got your doctorate. He said, in administration, he said, beside coaching the tight ends and special teams, I want you to be my administrative assistant, which I appreciated. And he gave me that responsibility and authority. And it went from there to when 2 years later we won the Rose Bowl. And he said, I'm going to Philadelphia. He said, I want you to come with me, and I want you to coach the tight ends, and I want you to be my administrative assistant. And I said, Dick, that'd be great. So I did. And then the second year, he kicked me upstairs. He said, I need somebody in the front office that I can trust and know, and we'll do the personnel draft, all of that. And I said, Dick, I'll be happy to do that. And was with him for just about 7 years with the Eagles. And, of course, when I left for the Stars, Dick retired. And I wanted to hire him when I came to the Chiefs. And asked him, and he said, I'm not ready. He'd been in broadcasting then about 10, 12 years and was enjoying that. And then a couple of years later, he called me. He says, I took the job. I said, what job are you talking about? He said, the St. Louis Rams. I said, wrong, right state, but wrong city.
Wrong team, right?
With the Chiefs. And anyway, as they say, the end of the story is that 20 years after we separated, if you will, I got to hire the guy that hired me. I got to hire Dick Vermeil as the head coach at UCLA. That's pretty unique. It doesn't happen very often. And anyway, he became not only a great football coach for me and everybody that he worked for, but he's a great person and a lifelong friend. We've seen our kids grow up together and get married and so forth. and he started this wine business 1998. He said, I'm gonna make a wine named after my father, John Louis Vermeil. Would you like to jump in with me? I said, sure. So I gave him a few bucks, and we're now with Vermeil Wines and selling about 4,000 cases a year.
Wow.
And having fun with it, unfortunately, except when the damn fires come to California.
I know you had some smoke
But other than
damage
that,
to your
yeah, it was
grapes.
great.
I would urge
thank
everybody
you.
to go to vermeilwines.com and check out, because not only, I mean, it is tremendous wine, but, one thing that Carl Peterson and Dick Vermeil have in common is they do everything first class. And I'll end this with this quick story. So I played for the Eagles 1 year, and then I went to camp with the Colts and Giants, was released. I run into Carl at actually teaching tennis in Cherry Hill, and his daughter gave her a tennis lesson. He said, do you want to try this again? And he told me, and I said, well, what are you paying? He told me the same as the Eagles. I signed right there, I think, on the tennis court. But the thing about Carl is when he took over the Stars, it was run, we had in the vet, the same type of locker room, the same setup, the same access to everything in the vet. He had the same lunch catered that he had from the Eagles, the same hotels, the same airplane. He did not scrimp on one thing for the Stars, and there was financial pressure there because they weren't a money-making organization at that time. But even with Vermeil wine, everything they do is first class. And if you like wine, and trust me, when you sign up in Vermeil Wine Club, you get access to Dick Vermeil and Carl Peterson, which is pretty cool, right? Have a virtual party; they'll drink wine with you. So I would urge everybody to do that. But Carl, you know how much I appreciate all you've done for me and my life, and it's great to reconnect with you again today.
Carl, thank you so much. We really appreciate you taking time to check in with us and continued happiness and health, and we thank you so much.
Billy and Ken, thank you. It's my pleasure. And Ken, thanks for the plug on Vermeil Wine, and my love to your lovely wife, Teresa. And hey, I might see you guys down in Atlantic City in a couple of weeks. I'm getting tired of being cooped up here in Kansas City.
Shoot me a text.
Come on,
I'll be there.
All right. Thanks, Carl. We really appreciate it. We got to run. There's Carl Peterson on the Barb's Harley Davidson Sports Hotline.